Hiya, editing me here. I totally forgot to say this at the beginning of the video, but I don't yet own an index, so keep that in mind as you watch the video. I'm hoping to get one by the end of the summer, but no guarantees. So, yeah, enjoy. Okay. I'm trying to fix the recording setup, but I can't afford a microphone right now, so I'm going to go the way of quiet. So hopefully it ends up nice. I won't know until I'm done finishing the video. You know, maybe the video won't record because my camera's an asshole. Exactly 1 month ago, Valve announced the virtual reality headset. Yes, they had never invented anything before. Exactly 1 month ago, Valve released the Index virtual reality headset. It was immediately met with both praise and criticism. Most criticism regarding the $1,000 price tag and the fact that it still uses lighthouse tracking, which is, you know, both are debatable because what you get in return is easily worth the money for any enthusiast. The Valve Index virtual reality headset features two 1440 by 1600 LCD panels, which combined with new optics allow for a 20-degree wider field of view. Not only this, but it allows for you to see more in your peripheral, which is kind of an issue with chromatic aberration and just general blurriness of previous headsets. However, the cost is in ease of use. It is harder to find the sweet spot, but you will have a wider field of view in return. Now, this is, you know, it's sort of a trade-off. And again, the panels are LCD. This means worse blacks in most situations, and worse colors, at least in general consensus. But I tried out the Rift S not too long ago, and I like the color better than the original Rift. That is, it's possible that they adapted for it with Robo Recall. It is an Oculus exclusive, of course, but that is something to keep in mind. So yes, there are losses associated with LCD panels, but what you gain in return is a refresh rate that blows just about anything else out of the water. The Index hardware is capable of achieving 144 Hz, which completely destroys the Rift S's 80 Hz and the Quest's 72 Hz. It doubles the Quest and nearly does the same to the Rift S. This, combined with the praise, comfortability, and the customization of the headset, is what makes it an absolute steal at $500 for the headset itself. Steal is, of course, relative when you're talking about the HTC Vive Pro, which is $800 for the headset itself. Why? Why is it? I know some of you are going to mention business class support, but I'll get to that in a second. But notice I didn't mention controllers. That's because, as amazing as they are, there is a widespread issue that affects a huge number of units. Again, I don't have my Index yet, so I can't speak from personal experience. However, I can say that these controllers are truly best in class, especially when considering the Vive wands of yonder. Please note the Pimax Sword controllers haven't even been really given any details at the time of making this video. They feature 87 different sensors. God, that is like the worst timing. Okay. Apparently I am not cool enough to be a cookie dude. Thanks for the information, Leah. They feature 87 different sensors to detect finger location. Along with that, they feature a joystick and two buttons, and in typical Valve fashion, there is a touchpad smack dab in the middle. However, notice the positioning of the joystick and buttons. It is incredibly awkward to reach according to most reviews. Despite this design flaw, the input parity between the Index controllers, the Vive wands, and the touch controllers is very nice for older VR games. Well, older VR games that don't yet have Index support, or even Oculus exclusives now can be played without too much hassle. Of course, you'll still need to install Revive, but now there's more input parity considering it can detect when all your fingers are closed like this. In addition to the awkward positioning of the joystick and buttons, the Steam Home button is also reportedly very hard to push. However, one could say that's a design choice for it to be difficult to push, unlike a certain part which is almost definitely not a design choice, unlike what Valve is trying to say. And that brings us to the point as to why I'm making this video. There's a defect in the controller that makes actuating the joystick, a feature that's been in nearly every controller in the last 20 years, extremely difficult when pushing it in a direction. And for some people, it doesn't work at all when tilted, which kinda defeats the purpose of having it click, because it's mostly used for sprinting. The majority affected with the issue cannot get the left stick to click up and down, while the right stick won't click left and right. A survey on the Valve Index subreddit by GameCat34 showed that between 60 and 65% of people are experiencing this issue. Take that number with a massive grain of salt though, like a chunk of salt, because his sample size was limited to 81 people, only 80 of which actually answered it. However, the fact that it's so prevalent in this small of a sample size, yet not close enough to 100% to be called a feature, it shows there is something wrong. Just a day after launch, awareness of the thumbstick issue, as it became known, skyrocketed. Many upset users sought out Steam support to hopefully fix the issue with the shiny new controllers that they just spent a significant sum of money on. The first response actually came on Reddit from a user named SteamHW Feedback. It was on a thread regarding the lack of communication between the Valve hardware team and the consumer. They stated they'd pass the message to the hardware team. Meanwhile, they started sending direct messages to users experiencing the issue to try and troubleshoot it and find out what is causing the epidemic. 4 days later, a Valve support member responded to a ticket with this: "Thank you for letting us know about your experience with the thumbstick. What you're describing sounds like the expected performance for the Index controller. The thumbstick was designed to be clickable when it's straight up, which enables games which use the thumbstick as an accessory button to work with Index controllers. In addition, we do expect that all thumbsticks should be able to actuate when tilted, though this may not produce the feel of a click." There's a lot to unpack here, but in summary, it is an absolute contradiction of itself and previous statements. This shows the complete and utter lack of communication within the Valve offices. So let's analyze this. The ticket talked about the lack of feedback produced when pushing the joystick in a certain direction. This is first described as expected performance. However, expected performance is for it to be clickable when it's straight up. Click is an onomatopoeia, which means it represents a sound, the feedback from an action. So the joystick should click according to the second paragraph, but then in the third it says it may not. Calling this expected performance is far from the truth, especially when just 3 days earlier a Valve employee responded on Reddit describing it as a problem and trying to troubleshoot it. You shouldn't have to troubleshoot something that is a feature. If it's a feature, then it doesn't need to be gotten rid of, correct? The way it's worded makes it seem like either damage control or they are stalling until they get their shit together. Either way, it's what we in the biz call a dick move. I know there are people rolling their eyes at this video right now at how trivial and childish it seems to get so upset over such a small issue, but I think perspective is important. These people are spending almost $300 on a premium product they've watched develop over the course of 2 years, so it's understandable to expect a finished product. The joystick is such a simple feature that seems to have been perfected by every other company, even Valve itself and its own Steam controller. And yet people are having to avoid a feature they paid for in a product they are choosing to be early adopters for. These people are choosing to support Valve by buying a product that, and I cannot stress this enough, they spent $280 for. A product which has been developed over the course of 2 years with no videos or articles talking about this issue. They go to support to see if it can be fixed, only to be met by a big middle finger from Valve support. The lack of a click itself is admittedly a small issue. The problem is that Valve's response was akin to saying, "It's not a bug, it's a feature." The most insulting part is that the community figured out how to fix it. All Valve needs to do is extend the metal rod in the joystick, something the Valve Index subreddit figured out 2 days before the infamous response. So in my opinion, it'd be childish not to worry about it. It'd be childish to let Valve get away with taking advantage of early adopters. Valve is a multi-billion-dollar company, not a small startup. If they really wanted to make it right, they could. I can understand that a new hardware launch can be difficult, but Valve's response does not reflect that being the cause. And it's not just speculation that Valve is perfectly capable of fixing it. They've done it with other cases. They've fixed issues that aren't even covered by warranty in the last month. Valve support is generally thought to be terrible at its job, and the whole joystick debacle certainly doesn't help. But they've been remarkably helpful with the launch of the Index. Cats eating cables, broken controllers, hardware defects, all of these have been dealt with in a reasonable time, in a reasonable manner. I would certainly call that business class support, HTC. Valve didn't have to replace the cable that was eaten by a cat, but they did, and they sounded downright friendly while doing so. Valve's warranty certainly doesn't cover people breaking their own controllers, but with the series of broken triggers that have come with the Index controller's launch, they've recognized it as an issue and they've replaced them accordingly. Even early in the joystick controversy, Valve employees worked with the community to troubleshoot the issue. Valve support has been nothing short of amazing, and yet they refuse to fix the largest and most widespread issue across all controllers. It's really just strange because last year alone, they made $4.3 billion. The best year for Steam ever. Valve truly has something special with the Index. I haven't seen any reputable, downright negative reviews of the hardware. In fact, many reviews out there actually recommend the Index as the go-to for any VR enthusiast. This is what makes the situation so sad to me. Support has been nothing but amazing throughout the Index launch. So why is the thumbstick issue being treated differently than the rest? I think, or rather I hope, that it's Valve trying to fix the assembly lines so that this doesn't ever happen with future units. Valve has been replacing units that don't meet the expected performance, which shows that they are at least trying to make them functional. Right now, my hope is that Valve is making an effort to fix these issues. In the meantime, making sure people's controllers at least work. It's sort of like what happened with the shipments. They said no new orders would be shipped until September. There are people receiving theirs here in July. It looks like Valve is trying to get people to prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. And I'm trying to stay optimistic.